Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of Pause Resume Presents, a brand new podcast series from the fine folks behind Pause Resume, where we're going to provide you with the things that you want to know from those who live, work and breathe the video games industry. From voice actors and actresses to developers big and small, we want you to make yourself a nice drink so you can sit down, relax and take in the conversations from the people who are involved with the games that you play. If you're in the unfortunate position of listening to us on your way to or from work or even during work, then you have our full sympathies. So, hey, why not let us know where you're listening from, and we might even give you a shout out. You can get in touch with us on all the usual social media channels, just search for Pause Resume, or send me a good old fashioned email. The email address is show@pauseresume.com. Today, we launch episode 1 of Pause Resume Presents with a voice actor that, for some strange reason, just always struck a chord with me. Way back in the winter of 2000, I was glued to my Dreamcast for hours at a time, listening to a man say such iconic catchphrases as, "Do you know where I can find some sailors? Did you see a black car?" And my personal favourite, "Let's get sweaty." At the time, having a fully voiced cast of characters in a video game was a rarity, because back then we were so used to reading lengthy text, and often it came with terrible translation from its Japanese origins. With Shenmue, we got something a bit different, and it's because of those long winter days and nights that I spent playing as Ryo Hazuki when I was 15 years old that, to be honest with you, I fell in love with video games. With that in mind, I'm delighted to say that Pause Resume Presents' first ever guest is the man who brought a cult legend to life, Corey Marshall, the voice of Ryo Hazuki. Let's get right to it. I apologise because a lot of these questions are looking back quite some time ago. We'll test how good your memory is, basically, with some of these questions. Okay. So how did your sort of role as Ryo Hazuki in Shenmue first come about? Can you remember the first time you ever encountered that name in the series?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I auditioned for it, it perhaps was a bit of a secret. They didn't tell me what the project was for. Basically, the only information that I really knew is that it was for Sega, the game company, and that they needed me to travel to Japan to do the work. So I did not know which game it was. I didn't know who I was going to be playing. Or any of that, you know, as far as I remember, I mean, they gave me a little bit of information on character background and that sort of stuff, like, you know, who he was and that, but it wasn't very in depth. They just kind of wanted me to get a feeling or a sense of the character for me to do the audition. So really, the first time that I ever seen or heard anything about it is when I had already arrived and ended up in studio. And when I was in the studio, they pretty much introduced everything to me. They kind of showed me all of the everything, concept art, characters, you know, minor and major characters, storyline, of course, and they kind of let me know what type of game it was, and I was quite impressed already. And then they ended up giving me the Dreamcast system for me to play the game. And you know, a lot of people know that I ended up receiving a Japanese version that was done with a English subtitle, that I was able to play the game myself, and that's when I really kind of discovered, oh wow, okay, so I see what kind of game it is, and got that amazing beginning opening animated sequence, and so yeah, I was really sort of finding out everything all at once. You know what I mean? They all the information they threw at me at once, and they kind of let me, you know, have that sink in for a little while. I think it was a couple of days to get settled and kind of find out everything that was going on. And yeah, so that's how I was introduced to it, just like a plethora of information all at once, and I was really kind of just absorbing all of that in, as well as playing the game myself.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was exciting and wonderful.
I can imagine. So why do you think they picked you?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, when I did the audition, they told me, they told me what was going on. As I said, they kind of gave me a little bit of background on the character. And I said, okay, well, do you need me to change my voice any? Do you want me to do this and that? And one thing I remember that kind of stuck out in my memory was, no, we want this person to be natural. We want it to be your natural voice. We want it to be, very similar to you. And that's what we're looking for, basically. So, to me, that says, well, they were just looking for a particular voice, a particular tone, something that they liked in the natural speaking voice of the actor. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it's anything that I did. Maybe it's the way that I chose to portray Hazuki or whatever. But yeah, they just wanted a natural speaking voice. They did have me change the pitch just a little bit. They wanted me to when I had gotten there to Japan, they said, well, he's 18. We want it to be slightly, slightly younger, if you could just kind of think about that. But in general, I guess just generally speaking, they wanted my natural voice. So I think I just lucked out in that sense. Yeah. And hopefully they liked the way that I chose to act the character as well. And I remember too, also when I was there, because there were just so many characters and so many voices and so many things to do. I said, oh, well, did you need me to do other voices? I can do young voices, old voices. I could do character voices. And they said, no, thank you so much for offering that, but we really want you to concentrate on just being Ryo Hazuki. And we don't want you to jump around and do other stuff. We really want you to just be in, Hazuki headspace all day, every day, and just do that. I'm like, okay, whatever you need, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, actually, because I'd never actually thought about the potential of you actually helping out with other voices, because when you think about it, and especially at the time, there are hundreds and hundreds of lines of dialogue in that game from, I don't know, hundreds of characters.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they wanted you to stick with just Ryo.
Yeah, I mean, and they had everybody else do stuff. I mean, they had Eric Kelso, they had Paul Lucas. I mean, everybody who came in did multiple characters, and sometimes, we had a great opportunity to work together in studio at the same time, which was great. But there were just sometimes we're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do a bunch of minor characters now. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll step out and have a cup of tea, while Eric Kelso or something like that does, 5 or 6, more minor characters or something.
So in the series, there's loads of iconic phrases, and I guess the length of time between sort of 1 and 3 next year has kind of helped to develop, I guess, memes and I guess bits of Shenmue culture that have kind of what's the word, kind of permeated through the internet, stuff like black cars, sailors, all that sort of stuff. When you originally read the script and were going through Shenmue 1, did you ever think, oh yeah, black car, that's something that's that everyone's gonna latch onto, or any phrases that leaped out to you at the time as odd or strange, or that's going to be popular?
Well, of course. I mean, how can I go through an interview without mentioning sailors, right? It's funny. I was just talking about Eric Kelso. In fact, we had kind of some discussions with the translators and script writers and stuff like that. We were like, some of these phrases and some of these lines, and it just sounds a little weird, you know what I mean? And we kind of had to explain a little bit of nuance of, English, or I guess particularly American culture, and how it sounds in English, and I mean, they understood what we were saying, but they said, yeah, in the end, we kind of still want this to be a Japanese game, as if it's a Japanese person saying it. They didn't want to change it too much. They just said, we kind of want this to be a translation from Japanese to English. So if you could just kind of say it that way, that would be okay.
Wow.
We're like, okay. I mean, we kind of said these things about, looking for sailors, and just kind of that subtle nuance that sounds a little funny.
Yeah.
But like I said, they just said, hey, this is a Japanese game, it's a Japanese character, so we just want it to stay this way. Like, okay, cool, great, as long as we know where we are.
Yeah. So you did actually offer to sort of help out, I guess, clean that up a bit.
Well, I mean, just to, I think maybe not really offer to clean it up, but maybe just sort of offer the cultural nuances that an American might view these particular lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I mean, we're Americans. I'm an American. From the United States. It sounds like he's looking for a good time, because it's just the culture that we've had back in the 60s and 70s, and I don't know, village people and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a long kind of history of stuff like that happens in the United States that doesn't necessarily happen in other places in the world. And you know what I mean? Like, we just kind of offered our cultural reference where we're coming from. That's all. Like, we just kind of said, like, hey, this is this is who we are, and this is the long history of just subtle nuances that people have had to say or had to do because of the history that we've had here.
Yeah.
So that's all. Just sort of offering that the cultural references, I suppose.
Yeah. Let's be honest, it's added to its charm, especially during the gap.
The thing is that it really, really has. I don't regret anything that we have done, because you hit it right on the head. That's exactly. I mean, Shenmue is Shenmue because of the way that it's written, because of the way that it's said, because of how we chose to do things. Because, I mean, everything from how I chose to do Ryo Hazuki as this I say that he's like a stoic character, you know what I mean? Almost emotionless, I really chose that character, and they liked that, so that's what they had me do. And everything from, how Eric does Ren, or how Tom's hot dogs. You know what I mean? Everybody has something to say about Tom, whether it's good or bad or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like everybody has something to say. And yeah, you're right. It's all about Shenmue's charm now. I mean, I can't say that we did anything right or wrong in any particular area, because look at what it's done. I mean, so many people. It's gone so far, and it's done so well, and we're still here. We're still talking about it. We're doing 3 now.
Yep. And
what can I say other than it seems that whatever we did it right.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's not many games, I don't think, that could have been released in, when was the second one released? 2000, 2001, not had any type of real coverage or another game or anything resembling it. And yet still 16, 17, 18 years later, there's still that fever for it from these fans. How have you been since 2 with regards to all the Shenmue thing? Because I can only imagine you must have been inundated with like questions and, do you know anything about 3? Do you know anything about 3? How was that gap between finishing off working on 2 and all this, well, it's over a decade, isn't it, up to 3?
Well, it's funny. Just the little things here and there from time to time. Of course, interviews and this and that and all that kind of stuff would happen periodically throughout time. But it's funny, every time that I would post. So I remember one time I was in Vegas, I think, and I saw a whole stack of Sega arcade games or whatever, and I was like, oh, Sega, let's take a picture. And I took a picture of me next to this big Sega sign, and I posted it, and like all of a sudden, like everything blew up, and everybody was all excited. Oh my God, 3's happening! Corey Marshall's he must be in Japan, and he's there in the Sega headquarters. And look, it's this and that. And I'm like, oh no, like, I was just taking a picture next to the Sega sign, and you know what I mean. So stuff like that would happen from time to time, and I guess it was kind of endearing at the same time, because it's like, oh, of course everybody wants any sort of clue or this or that. And anytime there was like the online game, or there were people were talking about the Saturn version or whatever, anytime something like that would come up, there'd be lots of movement on my Twitter feed or whatever the case may be, and yeah, it's just that I found it funny sometimes that if I accidentally posted something without a lot of context, that like, oh hey, I'm here in Vegas and I just happened to see the sun. Everybody, isn't it great? That all this speculation and all this back and forth would happen between people and fans and industry people and everything else. That's something that I found. I don't know. I found that just so interesting, and that's why 3 is getting done. Is because there was so much fever behind even just the littlest things, like a silly picture that I took, and then things really exploded, and a lot of people were talking about it suddenly. So yeah, over the years, could I say that I was surprised? Maybe I was kind of constantly surprised that there was so much talk and so much, maybe fever is a good word, that when any little thing happened, there was so much buzz and so many people talked about it.
Speaking about the online game, actually, that you mentioned, did you have any sort of involvement with that at any point? It seemed like it was cancelled pretty early on, but...
Yeah. No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I think there was a lot of, ideas throwing around and a little bit of development to kind of see this and that. And, of course, they do these things all the time. That just sometimes they'll do experiments and they'll talk about, whatever, they'll determine how many players they'll have and how much money it will cost. And, those kind of things happen all the time. But no, I didn't have any sort of involvement in that.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to go back again a little bit. Hopefully you can remember, because I can barely remember what I did yesterday. So I'm asking you to remember over a decade ago. So hopefully you're okay with it. But after kind of recording and all that sort of stuff got done for Shenmue 2, when did you kind of realise that 3 probably was not going to happen anytime soon, if at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I ever thought, oh, hey, it's probably not going to happen for a while. I would just wait for that time. You know what I mean? The thing is that as an actor myself, I have to move on. I have to do other projects. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to kind of keep looking ahead as somebody who's in the industry all the time. So I have to just keep looking for that next job and keep working and keep doing, whatever. A lot of people know that I do theater. I worked in, I did stunts and I did like a live stunt show. I did stunts in music videos and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I just got to keep going. I got to keep going and see what's on the next horizon. And, I always just kind of thought, a lot of people out there told me that they never gave up hope that 3 would happen. And I think I'm in that same boat. I just kind of think, even all this time later, I kind of thought, is it going to happen? Maybe it will. We'll see, because there's just so much. There's just so much out there, And occasionally, I would see. I don't know. I would see top 10 video games that need their sequel, and I would watch that video. And number 1 ended up being Shenmue. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of really great games that definitely deserved a sequel. And then for some reason they put Shenmue at number 1. And I was like, oh, man. So I'd see stuff like that all the time. And I kind of thought, I don't know. We'll see. Will it ever happen? I really hope so. And I kind of just always had that hope myself. And, when people were talking about Yu Suzuki doing his own thing and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, there was that idea and that hope again, and sure enough, that's it happened.
Yeah, here we are. It still seems a bit strange talking about Shenmue 3 and it's real. With that in mind, when did you know Shenmue 3 was going to make a comeback? Did you know before the announcement?
No, I knew just like everybody else. Yeah, just like everybody else. I think because they wanted it to be a huge reveal, right? They wanted it to be a big secret. They wanted it to be, Yeah. And the way they did it was great because, you can see hours of videos of people freaking out, watching live feeds or being there or whatever. And when they announced it, None of us knew. None of the actors knew. Everybody that I spoke to, even over in Japan and stuff like that, nobody knew that it was happening until everybody else found out at the same time.
Wow, that's kind of crazy to me. I thought you at least, as the voice of Ryo Hazuki, would have had a slight insight to it, but obviously not.
Yeah, it was a big surprise. It was kind of fun to find out, just like everybody else.
I can imagine. Have you started work on 3 yet?
Yeah, not yet. The only stuff I've been doing is promotion. I've been talking to you guys, and went to a convention just recently, and just been doing that kind of stuff. I haven't had a chance to, the only stuff that I've done in studio so far is the What is Shenmue series that probably people have seen. Just a little bit of background and information on Shenmue for new players who probably haven't had the opportunity to play it because they might be too young, or maybe just a recap of older players. And I did a little bit of voiceover, I guess, promotion for that, just saying, hey, I'm Corey Marshall, this is Shenmue, I play Ryo Hazuki, that kind of thing.
Hey, are you enjoying the show and want to hear more from Pause Resume? Well, luckily enough for you, we host a podcast twice a month called The Pause Resume Show, hosted by me, Alexandra. On the show, the Pause Resume team get together and discuss the latest news and releases in the world of video games, and usually end up talking about other video game related nonsense as well, because, well, why not? In order to listen, make sure you search for The Pause Resume Show, a gaming podcast on your podcast service of choice, and make sure you're subscribed. Doing so means you won't only get Pause Resume Presents, but also the Pause Resume Show, all in one feed, so there's no reason not to.
Is it good to pick the role back up after all this time?
Oh, I'm very excited, and it's great that Yu Suzuki gets a hold of his project, and he gets to do with it what he wants. That's going to be great. I really hope that we can put out something good. The thing is that about Shenmue, everybody's very passionate about it, including the makers, including the storytellers and the directors, and even the actors. We really like Shenmue. I've spoken to several actors who are very excited about hopefully working on Shenmue again. They really want to do it. Again, I say as an actor, we're always looking for the next thing. Yeah, we want to work on projects. And in the end, we all, of course, want to do good stuff. But everybody that I've ever spoke to is really kind of passionate about Shenmue. And we really want to do it, first of all. And two, we really want to do a good job at it. It's something about the project that makes us want to do well for everybody, for us, for Yu Suzuki, for the fans. We really love the project, and we really want to do a good job.
To be honest, that kind of comes across in a lot of the material from Yu Suzuki himself, in like his Kickstarter videos and all that sort of stuff. And you said you went to an event recently. Is that the one with, is it Adam Korelik? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
You look like you were having a lot of fun there.
It was a good time. It was great too, because people ended up coming from out of state, over from New York, or from Connecticut and Pennsylvania and stuff like that, just to come say hey. And I remember one time we had just done a panel, and I had been drinking 15 bottles of water because we had been talking all day, and I just wanted to make sure that I was, good and hydrated, and my voice was good, and I had been drinking so much water, and I was like, man, I had to pee every hour. And so I was running, to the bathroom, and I was like, oh, okay, we're going to go sign some autographs now. See you guys over there. Came out of the bathroom, and a fan saw me, and we had ended up talking, and he was actually interested in martial arts and stuff like that. And we had talked about different forms of martial arts and my opinions on things and his opinions on things. And I was like, we were just kind of standing there for a while, and I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go sign some autographs. Do you want to come over? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember you got an autograph already. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back over there and get some sign some autographs for some people. And he's like, oh, okay, great. See you later. And I ended up walking over there, and I realized that there's this huge line, and it really kind of like surprised me. And I thought, oh my God, what? I had no idea. I had no idea that these many people were going to show up to get my autograph. I was really surprised that there ended up being a line all the way to the back of the convention center that we were in, and I just you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't believe it. You know, I was like, wow, are you guys in the right line? Are you you guys here to see me? I couldn't believe it. And the thing is that Adam went around, before, he's a game collector himself. He has to have, every game on every system. He's one of those guys, and he saw some Shenmue merchandise for sale, and he told me afterwards, he's like, I did another round, and everybody in here bought every single piece of Shenmue merchandise for me to sign. Wow. Whether it was a game or, whatever. He realized, he's like, oh yeah, I went back and there are holes where the games used to be, and the whole place was bought out with all the Shenmue merchandise.
It's funny, actually, just as you're talking there, and sort of in my sort of work, I get to talk to a lot of people, I get to interview a lot of people. I can really hear through your voice your passion for Shenmue and this project. It just feels like you're kind of bouncy the way you talk about it.
Yeah, the thing is that I play games myself. I'm definitely a gamer. I've played a lot of games, and I love this project. I really do. And the thing is that it's kind of a feedback loop, right? I mean, you guys are excited, that gets me excited, and I guess I get excited, it gets you guys excited. And yeah, you're right. I really do. Hey, I really do love talking about this. I love being a part of it. And I'm looking forward to being as far as we take it. I want to be a part of it, And it's funny. I spoke to my wife, and I'm like, hey, if I ever do a serious breakout into the movie business and whatever, I actually become a very successful, huge movie star or whatever. I was like, I'd have to have a sit down and a discussion with my agent, and I'd say, look, how many millions of dollars are you going to pay me to do this movie is great, but if Shenmue 3 or Shenmue 4 comes about and they can't pay me, $600 million to be the voice, I'm going to be like, look, I have to do it. You know what I mean? It's just that this is just one thing that I have to do, no matter the pay. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, of course, I want to get paid. I want to feed my family. I want to try and make some money, but at the same time, it's like, look, I don't care. I don't care if I'm, I don't care if I'm as famous as Dwayne Johnson or anybody else. It's like, I have to do Shenmue. It's just, first of all, it's something that I love, and it's made me who I am today. And it's just something that I feel I don't feel just obligated to the fans to do it. I feel like I really want to do it. Yeah. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, that definitely comes through loud and clear in talking to you. Just to kind of round things off, what have you been up to since kind of Shenmue 2, and what are you doing now? What's keeping you busy? What's paying the bills, so to speak?
Well, it's funny. The last big job that I had before I took a semi-retirement in the meantime, because my daughter was born. And I had taken on a producing job. I was working for a company called Megatrend, and we were doing videos for Capitol Records, which is affiliated through Disney and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's the kind of project when I was being a producer in a small company where I had to do everything, right? I mean, I had to do, contracts, salary negotiations. I had to budget and rental equipment, and everything, right? So it was the kind of job where I woke up so early that the sun wasn't even out, and my daughter, of course, was still asleep. My wife and daughter were asleep. Had to get up and leave, go down into Venice, California, is where the company was based, or wherever we were happened to be filming that day. And then I got home so late that the sun was down. My wife was kind of getting ready for bed, and my daughter was asleep. She was asleep again, So the thing is that my wife started sending me videos of her walking and starting to talk. And I was just at that point where I was like, man, is this really how I want to be? Do I want to be that guy? Do I want to be that dad? No, I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to be with my daughter. And the majority of my time has actually been with my daughter.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. My parents were separated when I was young. And I spoke to my dad about it, and I was like, I don't know, Dad, it's really hard for me to, because I've been working since before legal age.
Right.
And I said, it's really hard for me, my work ethic to do this. And it was, it's actually been hard for years. But I spoke to my dad about it, and he said, son, we had been separated. And he said, you never get that back. And he said, if you feel it's very important for you to spend time with your daughter, then you should. And I think that you should, because we didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that him saying that really kind of made me go in that direction. And I said, okay, all right, that's it. I'm actually going to be dad,
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'm really happy that I did. I took that time. My daughter is really smart because of all the time that I, spent with her education, and she's extremely curious. And I spent time, with her performance herself, with her martial arts, with her dance, whatever the case may be. And she's turned out to be a really great girl.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 9 now. And so I have, I've been doing projects here and there that haven't been taking all of my life away. But now that she's older and Shenmue 3 is coming up, I was actually discussing this with my wife, and I said, hey, I think I'd like to do voiceovers again, because of all the stuff that I've done. I really like voiceover. I used to do Japanese animation with a company called The Right Stuff. I had done a few projects with them when I lived in New York. And doing the Shenmue series, I thought, man, I can go in studio, or I can work from home with a home studio, and it pays well. And it's not going to, it's not going to take my life away, where I can actually still spend time with my daughter.
Yeah.
And now that she's older, we actually are doing a play together.
Oh, really?
It's my daughter's first play, and it's Little Red Riding Hood. And it's funny, when we did the audition, we just went in there for her, and they asked me to audition. Maybe they thought that I looked like an actor or whatever, and I was like, oh no, I'm just here for my daughter. She's auditioning, and they said, yeah, why don't you come on in? So, yep, sure enough, I went in there, and they cast me as the big bad wolf. Now that she's getting older and she's doing acting herself, she's done several commercials, and she's done several short films now, and hopefully our next step is to get her into a TV series or a film herself, and hey, maybe I don't know, maybe she'll get a small part or some sort of part in Shenmue 3. That'd be fantastic.
That would be great. That would be fantastic. She might even be the lead in Shenmue 4. You never know.
I know, right? We'll see.
Excellent, Corey. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And, thanks to everybody out there for listening, and all the Shenmue fans that got Shenmue 3 made. I really think that it was the passion of guys like you and everybody out there who just loved Shenmue too much to let it go, quietly into the night, that we decided that we are going to keep it alive. And I really do feel that it's because of all of you guys out there that got Shenmue 3 made.
That's brilliant. My bank balance is still weeping from the Kickstarter, so thank you very much again.
Understood.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to my chat with Corey Marshall. Hopefully you liked it, and hopefully you'll tune in for episode 2 of season 1 of the Pause Resume Presents podcast, which will release on the first Monday of next month. We've got some more interesting guests lined up, so to ensure that you don't miss out on that, make sure you subscribe on your podcast service of choice, and if you could give us a 5-star rating with a positive comment, it'd go a long way to helping us out. You can find us over at pauseresume.com. We also run a more gaming-centric podcast called The Pause Resume Show, where we discuss the recent news and games every fortnight. Just search for The Pause Resume Show on any podcast service, and you'll find it there. We're also on Twitter, at Pause Resume with a little underscore at the end of it, and also on Facebook and Instagram. Again, just search for Pause Resume and you'll find us. We'll be updating everyone on our site and on our social channels of upcoming guests and schedules for both the Pause Resume Show and Pause Resume Presents, so make sure you stay tuned. If you do want to get in touch with questions or even guest ideas, email us. That email address is show@pauseresume.com. Who would you like us to talk to? Make sure you let us know. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next edition of the Pause Resume Show and the next edition of Pause Resume Presents.